There's a lot of stuff talking about gesture online, and I think that a lot of the times it's people boil it down to just go fast. You need to set a time limit, 30-second gestures, and just go. But they don't actually teach gesture. I have a video already up where I teach gesture, but I think that I'm gonna do one where it's traditional and it's just going through one single pose, like a full walkthrough, a complete walkthrough from all the decision making, because I think that gesture drawing isn't about going fast, it's about simplifying and it's about capturing the motion. Let's first go over the basics to understand before we get into it. So I'm going to be using these pencils because I need to get rid of them. And they're also really dark. They're 10B pencils, so they can show up better on camera. So that's why I'm trying to get rid of these ones because I don't really like using them. They're too soft. Anyway, so we want to get to these gestures. I did a bunch as a warm-up before starting. These were really fast, like a minute long, very, very loose, but I'm going to basically talk about these concepts that are illustrated in here. So what are these concepts? The first one is CSI. Now, CSI lines are basically curves, S curves, or it's two C curves combined. So you kind of make like a shape like this, and then straights. Now, these are the kinds of lines that you are basically going to be using to create this entire gesture. You want to look at the pose and see how you can break down all of these complex anatomy and everything into these simple lines. Now, this is also going to be very, very beginner friendly, so I'm not going to go more in depth than whatever you see on these post-it notes. Now, I always say no time limit. How come? The reason why is because so much of gesture is analysis, and so much of gesture is designing and trying to decide what is the best way to simplify and solve this problem right here. You need time in order to accurately and correctly solve this problem. If you are jumping in with 30 seconds, right, and you're just, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I know that there's a line of action or something. Okay, and if you don't know what to do after that, then you're kind of just, one, you're not learning anything, and two, you're just coming up with random bad habits. So that's why my tip for people is to go no time limit, especially when you're starting out, and slowly figure out how you want to simplify these design choices, how you want to simplify the body in whatever way. And then as you get better, as your eyes and your knowledge gets better at just, being able to see a pose and break it down really quickly, and you know how to navigate the body, speed will come after that. Right, speed comes with practice. So now, like doing something like this in a minute or in 30 seconds or something is no problem because I can look at the pose and I immediately can see like, okay, this is how I'm going to draw it in 30 seconds. The other reason for the time limit that people will always say, it's like, oh, but I need the time limit, otherwise I'll keep drawing until like forever. I don't know when to stop. The way to solve that issue, if you have a time limit, if you don't have a time limit and you want to solve that issue, is you have a reference of a gesture drawing that you like, whether it be from a pro, whether it be from something. So for me, this would be the final result. You can give me 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and if it's a gesture drawing, this is what I'm picturing in my head, and I'll take 5-10 minutes to get to this point. If you're a beginner and you're slow and you don't know how to do this, I would say spend the 10 minutes getting to this. And what are you going to be thinking about when you do that? That's what we'll go over when we talk about this pose. Because so much of it is thinking and figuring out and how to design appealing shapes, appealing lines, what lines are important, what lines are not important. You need time to figure that out. And then once you have that figured out, and once you've done 1,000+ gesture drawings, then you don't need the time anymore because your mind has already develop the neural network to immediately figure out, okay, this is exactly how I want to do it. Easy pose. You need easy poses. Easy poses are standing, no foreshortening, as little foreshortening as possible, with a nice bend in the body, with a nice curve in the body. So poses like this one, Don't do this one was like a perspective pose like this, like a camera right above. Don't do those, but poses with really strong curves in the not this one. This one has a twist. Avoid like crazy twists, but I would do basically like poses. Look for poses like this. Look for poses like this. Look for poses like this. So now let's get into tackling this. We have the reference. We have a piece of paper. Now let's talk about getting into it. So first, let's talk about what you want to see when you first see this. When I first see this pose, the main things you want to start with is head, torso. Well, torso is basically chest, pelvis. These are your main 3 parts. Head is the least important. Torso is the most important. When you're here, you want to also consider proportion. So that's the other thing too. Go slow, no time, easy pose, and you want to spend time figuring out proportions and making sure your proportions are nice. I forgot to mention that, but now let's move on to it. Okay, so we're considering proportion, we're considering gesture, we're considering everything. We're considering CSI lines, curves, C curves, S curves, which is 2 C curves combined like this, straights, no symmetry, so no these shapes. We want asymmetry. We want to combine a curve with a straight, make things not symmetrical. So now let's go through this body and let's figure out the blueprint. The first thing I do, people might do line of action, right? That can be helpful. But what I do is I look at the line for the shoulders for this pose. So line for the shoulders, it's a bit of a diagonal like this. Let me sit up a little more so I can see it better. I'm used to drawing on a raised surface like this and having the pencil like this. That can be helpful, and learning how to do that is very helpful. But I didn't start doing that until way later. I basically learned how to draw just from pencil paper on a desk. So you don't need anything fancy. There's something like this. Now, we have a line for this shoulder, and then it kind of curves out this way, right? So I can do something general like this. Keep it loose, not precious. But the main thing that I want to capture is this torso shape. Now, this torso shape, you want to consider how is the person bending. So this is going to be like my example real fast. So don't worry about this for now. This torso shape has a lot of energy being pushed up this way. A lot of energy being pushed up right here. She's bending her body and jutting out her hip. So that means there's pressure pushing out this way from the hip, and then there's pressure pushing out this way from the torso. We want to capture that, and that's where our thick lines are going to be. So we want to have a strong curve this way, because we see this curve here, and then we have a second curve here. So this curve is going to flow into this curve right here, the curve of the hip. Now we have the rule CSI. We also have the rule no symmetry. So we don't want to have anything like this, right? No balloon, people. We want to have a straight or a less intense curve. And for this one, will also be a straight on this side. You can close off the shape, and now you have your torso shape. It has a good gesture to it. The energy flows from one bend to the next bend, and then the other side of the bends have straights on them. This is basically what you want to be thinking of, how you want to see this when you are doing gesture drawings. So you can see why I'm saying no time limit, because something like this, being able to think through this and fully analyze this, is going to take you to 30 seconds, right? Especially if you're starting out, maybe even a minute to try to figure out how you want to do this, and also keep proportions, and also, you know, making sure that you're pushing it enough. So right here, I kind of didn't push it out enough. I would probably, if I were to do it on this one, probably push it out more like this, that, right? Now let's jump into the next part. So we said head, but I think that heads can come even further back. I think that for me, legs are even more important. Heads are so simple that it's just a circle, right? You can just put the circle down anywhere. Don't even worry about it in a gesture drawing. The most important thing is the torso plus the legs, in my opinion. Some people might want to put heads first. Sometimes when I do gesture drawings, I'll start with the head first, but that's, you know, that's when you've done a million gesture drawings before. So now that we're here, now let's look at how does this leg go down. It's important to learn leg templates, and I'll kind of go over it, but I won't really talk about it here. Maybe I'll make a separate video just for leg templates. But for this leg that's going down like this, we want to first capture this diagonal portion. Now I'm running out of space. I'm just going to stretch out this pen like this. Boom, boom. You can measure distances. So it's around, you know, legs are typically around the like the size of the front torso. So if the head's like this, boom, I kind of have enough space. So I'm gonna push it back like this. I have my leg positioned. I have my second leg positioned somewhere here. Now let's talk about the gesture of the leg. How do you draw the gesture of the leg? Legs from the front view have a pattern of being outside curve, inside of the knee, outside of the calf, outside of the thigh, inside of the knee, outside of the calf. That's the pattern of the curves. So if you kind of have that memorized, you can easily just kind of feel your way through and find the gesture of the leg like that. And you can see how it kind of creates this nice fluid shape that's easy for your eyes to follow. You're not making these like mushroom marshmallow shapes, and it follows the anatomy. And then on the other opposite side, we always combine a curve with a straight, CSI. So we'll just do that. We'll just put straights on either side, and we have a gesture of the leg. Now for this leg here, it's the same thing. It's also a front view. So we'll go outside of the thigh, inside of the knee, outside of the calf, all the way down to the foot. So we'll do that outside of the line. And you can see I did a straight line right here, capturing the diagonal. So I'm just going to be using that as a guide. Outside of the thigh. Keep in mind the placement of the knee. This is proportions, right? We can see this knee is around here. The second knee is a little bit lower. So I'm going to have a knee here. I'm going to put the second knee slightly lower, like this. You can also help by drawing in like little circles, doing your construction to help out. Boom. Now what? Outside of the calf. After outside of the thigh, inside of the knee, outside of the calf, and then it goes straight into foot. For foots and hands in gesture, you don't have to worry like about it at all, but you might want to keep the gesture line of it, or the proportion. So here, I might push this foot, move it up this way, right? Move this foot down more, something like that. I'm drawing on 2 pieces of paper right now because my paper is not long enough for this, but this is the idea. Boom, boom, boom. So now we have all of this analysis, and I think at this point, you can call it done. Like once you're at this point, just say like, all right, cool, let's work on another drawing. Let's do a second drawing. Let's do a different pose, or you can do the same pose but do a different one. This is basically what I mean. No time limit, but your goal is when to stop is when you get to a certain point. When you get to this level, you're like, all right, cool, I'm here, I'm done. Let's move on to a different drawing. Or you can have a longer time limit, like a 5-minute time limit, and you just want to basically analyze as much as you can in that time. And if the 5-minute time limit is up right here, it's like, all right, cool, 5 minutes is up. Then you just stop and you do a different drawing, and you can see if you can analyze faster and faster. That is basically how you get better at gesture drawing. And this also ties into how you get better at design, at drawing characters, at figure drawing in general, because all of this is all the foundation. When you're drawing characters, when you're sketching out, whatever, when you're animating, right, as an animator, all of this applies, and it's just super simple to just be like, okay, here's a leg, right? This is how I'm going to put down the leg. Oh, I want this leg to be up. Cool, I know the gesture is like this, and then gesture is like this, and you can just sketch out poses really quickly. So now let's go into the next part, which is the arms. So for the arms, sometimes you want to just do like circles for the shoulders, something like that. But you can see here, there's this big gesture curve right here, and then it just kind of curves back this way. For this one, curves out this way, straight. So you just want to capture those. I'm going to do this arm first. So you can see how there's the deltoid muscle that's curving out like this, and then it curves out like this. So I want to capture that. Deltoid muscle curving up, and then it kind of jumps into the tricep muscle. Keep in mind proportions. Draw, like compare it to different parts. This elbow is around where the neck is. So I'm going to have my neck here, elbow right here. Boom. And then once you practice this more, you'll just have a more intuitive sense of proportion. Your muscle memory will kick in and you'll know. Boom. And then for here, arms are also less important, so you don't have to be as detailed as the legs. That's why I'm spending less time. The most important part is torso and legs. This one here has a gesture going up, diagonal like this over the top of the head, like that. And then you're gonna have the head lock in the head a little bit more, like this, like that. So this is essentially the analysis of it. And you can slowly start to add in the contour lines and the construction as you get along with it. But that's essentially the walkthrough. Now let's do one. These also go dull really quickly, so I'm gonna use a sharper one. So now let's do it again, but this time a bit faster. So for here, let's go right into it. Shoulder has a bit of a diagonal to it, bend of the body. And you also have this. I already can know that this is going to be kind of long, but I'm going to shorten it actually, just so that it can fit on the page somewhere like here. So if you're having trouble, like if you're having the symptom of like, oh my gosh, my legs are so long or something, I would probably put a end line somewhere right here. Like this is where the legs are going to end, something like that. If you mess up too, don't erase, just draw over it. So I have something like this. This torso, there's two torso shapes. I don't know if I talked about it. There's C torsos versus S torsos. And then you would just have to see that pattern between, people depending on how it bends. So this torso specifically is a bit of an S torso. So because there's a S shape to it, there's a top bend down to this bottom bend like this. Then it kind of goes like this. Boom. So this is closer to, well, this is still slow, but this is closer to kind of like the speed of like a actual gesture drawing. Leg, you can go legs dropping down like this. The second leg goes down further like that. Now let's put in the gesture for it. Goes down outside of thigh, inside of knee, outside of calf, like that. Same thing here. Goes outside of thigh, inside of knee, outside of calf, drops down to the foot. There's a good diagonal here. And then here, you'll go shoulder. You notice how I'm just ignoring the head? I'm just putting down all the pieces like that. Head, probably make it smaller. But yeah, but that's basically the analysis. If you get to this part and here, this is basically good enough, right, for a gesture drawing. And then as you get better and better, you can start to have more time. You'll be able to get to this spot faster, and then you'll be able to clean up and polish, or even spend more time than I am. Like right now, this torso is looking big, this whole part here. So I just know that, oh, if I do this in the future, then I know to keep the proportions intact. And because if you're understanding and you want to follow and analyze these curves of the body, you know which lines to emphasize and which lines not to emphasize. So for here, I'm emphasizing these curved lines, and then I'm not really emphasizing the lines that are outside, like these side lines here. The other thing to know, or the other thing to practice, what can you practice to sort of improve your line quality if you were to kind of like, okay, I'm gonna go into this, boom, right? How ways to sort of just get better line quality and more confidence in lines and shapes is to do stuff like skating. So this is an exercise that I did a lot when I was just starting out, is basically doing these like skating lines like this, going from thin to thick to thin, thin to thick to thin. Whenever you hit the curve, it's like you're ice skating. You want to dig into the paper, and then you want to, when you're in the straight, you want to go loose. This will train your dexterity, and you'll get better and better at having smoother lines. So that way, when you can do like, if you want to do poses, right? You can do like whatever kind of poses you want to do, and you'll have a more better sense of putting out and designing different line shapes and all that, right? And then you can kind of piece everything together. So that's about it. Those are the exercises. You want to practice CSI lines, practice your skating, making sure that you have curves with straights combined, and also analyzing how you want to combine, how you want to break down and simplify and design the different shapes of the body. So that's a gesture. Practice it, no time limit. Take your time, spend time analyzing and breaking it down, and then also learn anatomy. That can also help out. But yeah, I always preach to learn anatomy. Like here, if this is the leg, you have the leg up like this. You'll see that I have a gesture going up, gesture going down, gesture going down. Here, gesture going down to the back of the leg. Like this, all of this is memorized, right? This is all from memory. This is all from imagination. Once you've drawn enough from reference, drawing from imagination is just like a science, right? Boom. Now you have a Like here, you can put a shadow right under, like that, right? Boom. And then if you want to, you can go like, okay, cool. Like let's do a gesture here. Oh, I know the shoulder muscles are here. Let's do a pose like this. Oh, I want this arm to be raised. I know the gesture for that. Let's go. Let's go down here, up here. Then let's go here. Head. Right. Boom. Right. I don't know. Just making stuff up, putting curves down, putting straights down.